joining me now is Tom Mulcair, CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader. Good to see you, Tom.
Good to be with you, Renee.
So no official announcements yet, but Mark Carney, and then let's throw in Chrystia Freeland and Christy Clark could all be potential contenders for the leadership race should Trudeau decide to step down. How do you see this all playing out?
I think you've just named the three top picks in the trifecta, Renee. Former governor of the Bank of Canada, Mark Carney, it will be the prohibitive frontrunner in this race. One, because he's extraordinarily talented. Two, because he's got the skill set in the area where Trudeau was the weakest, which is the economy. And that's why, by the way, the Conservatives are attacking not Chrystia Freeland, of course not Christy Clark, they're attacking Mark Carney. Their Quebec spokesperson is out all day today attacking Mark Carney, saying that he's been there advising Trudeau, but actually the person who's been there beside Trudeau on the economy all this time, of course, was Chrystia Freeland. Carney agreed to come on board a couple of months ago, but he doesn't have to bear the burden of any of Trudeau's bad decisions on the economy. And Canadians care a great deal about the economy. You know, in that famous expression from American politics, it's the economy stupid. I mean, you've got to understand that the average Canadian is being told that they have to tighten their belt. They've watched the Trudeau government and the bureaucracy under Trudeau grow exponentially with nothing to show for it. They're giving billions of dollars in contracts to private companies to do the same work. So the average Canadian is saying, look, the Liberal brand is still there. Trudeau is not. He's not on their radar screen at all. That's what's been fueling the 20-something% lead for the Conservatives. So if Carney makes it into the race, it'll be a game changer. If he becomes Liberal leader, he gives them some hope in the next campaign, although there is that massive lead that I just referred to for the Conservatives right now.
Regardless of whether it is Mark Carney or anybody else leading the Liberal Party, does anyone have what it takes to turn the party around?
Well, I learned that you never underestimate the Liberal Party because with Jack in 2011 and the Orange Wave, we became the official opposition, and everybody's saying, oh, they're relegated to the dustbin of history, and they came roaring back under Justin Trudeau, who, unfortunately for the Liberals, has stayed around just a titch too long. So I do think that it is very possible that the party that has been in power for most of Confederation can put on its game face, get ready. You know, they have a very deep bench strength and put on a very strong fight in the next campaign. Those numbers will change rapidly, Renee, if somebody like Mark Carney were to take over the helm of the Liberal Party. So I said before that, you know, you have to watch who the Conservatives are attacking for a hint. And I would also say you have to look to who Carney and indeed Chrystia Freeland or Christy Clark are able to recruit around them as their campaign team. Now, it would appear from some indications that someone of the caliber of Gerald Butts might actually be able to work with Carney and help him get ahead. If that's the case, if this is one of the strongest and people who's ever been in the Canadian government without being elected. And he's done very well in the private sector since he left. He's highly regarded by everyone who's ever worked with him. And Gerald Butts, if he were to decide to throw in his lot with Mark Carney, watch out. That is also a game changer.
Now, a long 6-hour meeting is scheduled this Wednesday for the Liberal caucus. Do you expect to see Justin Trudeau step down before that?
My thinking, I mean, it's entirely possible, and you know, it's very difficult to guess. But I'd say, look, let's start with the certainty. The only certainty is that Justin Trudeau is not leading the Liberals into the next campaign. That's decided. But what he does in the next 48 to 72 hours is, you know, your guess is as good as mine. I think out of respect for his caucus, he'd like to be able to break the news to them. Theoretically, first, it would get out immediately, and then he would be able to do something a bit more orderly. That's been the biggest challenge, Renee, is that nothing has been done in an orderly fashion. Trudeau's known that the writing's been on the wall for about a year, but instead of giving a chance to his successor, he's doing the same thing his dad did to John Turner, leaving them as little time as possible. The same thing that Jacques Chrétien did to Paul Martin, leaving them as little time as possible. Mulroney did the same thing, by the way, to Kim Campbell. They hold on as long as they can instead of giving their successor a chance. So I think that Trudeau is going to try, at least, he's failed the last year, but he's going to at least try to show some success in his leaving of politics. Now, what are the possibilities for the different scenarios? One is called prorogation. You suspend Parliament, essentially. Harper did it a couple of times, once for over 2 months. So the Conservatives are going to scream and whine and moan, but they don't have much of a case because they did it themselves. That would give the party time to have a shortened bid. They could organize a leadership race. That would have to be shortened down, and they would allow themselves some time to choose a new leader. So there's been talk of a potential interim leader. I think that's a spectacularly bad idea. That would, in fact, mean 3 prime ministers in a few months when we're dealing with the most incredibly serious political situation we've dealt with in decades, which is the arrival of Donald Trump and the threat of these massive tariffs. So the Liberals have to do things not only for themselves, but they have to do things putting the country first. I think that, by the way, that's what Trudeau has failed to do, to put the country above his own interests. So he can still try to get it right now, but he's going to have to do it very rapidly.
All right, we will have to leave it there. Tom, thank you as always for being here. Appreciate it.
All the best, Renee.
That is Tom Mulcair, our CTV News political commentator and former NDP leader.